Hello viewers, today we shall discuss about the rest of the anatomical portions which we have left, and this portion includes the circulatory system, respiratory system and nervous system of grasshopper. Circulatory system in case of insect is open type. Open type means the blood, which is technically known as hemolymph. It flows freely in the body cavity, which is also known as hemocoel. So, there are no tubes like the other higher animals where the blood flows in either arteries or the veins. Here the system is open type, but in other animals it is closed type. Now, the circulatory system consists of following organs, or the following organs are concerned with the circulation of the blood. The first is the dorsal vessel. Now, the dorsal vessel is a tube-like structure and lying just below the integument or the body wall. It is the main pulsatory organ or main organ of the circulation. Now, it is opened anteriorly, however, it is closed posteriorly. In the whole tube, there are divisions and they act as the chambers, or they can be termed as heart. So, in case of insect, this tube is divided into 13 chambers, or we can say that there are 13 hearts are present. Now, this function of closing and opening of this tube is governed by special valves which are known as ostial valves. The dorsal vessel or the tube, when it reaches the brain or when it reaches the head, then it is termed as aorta. Heart, we have already said that it is made up of 13 chambers, which is divided into different chambers or different parts. Controlling of the opening closing of these chambers is governed by special structures. Now, the body cavity, which is known as hemocoel, it is divided into 3 chambers by 2 diaphragms. The 2 diaphragms, they are dorsal as well as the ventral diaphragm. Dorsal diaphragm and ventral diaphragms both are perforated. It means the blood can go from this side to that side. Now, with the presence of 2 diaphragms, the entire body cavity is divided into 3 parts, and these 3 parts, they are known as dorsal, middle and ventral sinus, which are technically known as pericardial sinus, perivisceral sinus and perineural sinus. The pericardial sinus can be recognized in the insect body by the presence of this tube or the dorsal vessel. Similarly, where the nerve cord is present, then it will be perineural sinus, and out of these 3 sinus or 3 parts, the middle part, that is the pericardial sinus, is the biggest part or the largest part of the body cavity. Besides this dorsal vessel, which is supposed to be the main pulsatory organ for the circulation of the blood, accessory organs are also present. It means they also help to some extent in the circulation of the blood flow, and these structures are mainly present near the junction where the appendage is attached. Say for example, wing is an important appendage, leg is an important appendage of the insect. So what we have discussed about the circulatory system, that you can see on your screen with the help of this diagram, where all the three sinuses and two diaphragms, dorsal vessels, all these structures can easily be seen in this diagram. Then it depicts that the blue portion is pericardial sinus, middle portion which is shown in the green surface, it is the perivisceral sinus, and the pink part is perineural sinus. So this diagram clearly depicts the different parts of the circulatory system. Now coming to the respiratory system. In case of respiratory system, the exchange of air, which includes carbon dioxide and oxygen, is performed by a special tubes which are known as trachea, and these trachea, they divide into finer branches, and these finer branches, they are known as tracheoles. However, there is a difference between trachea and tracheoles. In case of trachea, a cuticular lining or a thin layer of cuticle is present, which is nothing, it is the intima, and this intima or this lining, it bends in the form of the coil. So in case of trachea, the coil like spiral or coil like binding is there, which is not present in case of tracheoles, and the function of this spiral coiling is just to prevent the trachea from collapsing. As soon as the trachea is divided into tracheoles, the intima or this layer is lost. That is the reason why we call the insects are tracheate arthropod, because this tracheal system is very much developed in case of insects, and such type of respiratory system or tracheal tubes are not found in any other animal except the insects. The main advantage of providing this type of tracheal system in the insect body is oxygen can directly reach to each and every tissues or the cells. There is no involvement of blood for carrying the oxygen to the lowest unit of the body, that is the cell. It means the oxygen is directly reaching to the cell where the oxidation takes place, and energy is released after combining with the food material which is carried out with the inside the blood, and energy is released which is utilized for the metabolic activity of the organism, and carbon dioxide is again thrown back with the same tubes outside, because it is a waste product that cannot be retained in the body. Now in fast flying insects, where the insect wants to fly more distances or he wants to cover more distance, then some sac-like structures or balloon-like structures they have been provided at certain places, particularly close to the wing base, legs, etc., so that more oxygen can be supplied at the time of either walking or flying. Now, we have said that the tracheal system is very much developed in case of insects. As such, the system is further modified or divided into tracheal trunks, which are either dorsal, ventral or lateral tracheal trunks. Now, these tracheal trunks, they open outside the body in the form of a slit-like structure, which are technically known as spiracles or stigmata, and the opening and closing of the spiracles is governed by a special type of structures. A special wall-like structures are also being provided in the stigmata or spiracles, which govern the in and out of the air. Now, this tracheal system is very important in case of insect. It is further classified in different insects based on the number of functional spiracles. Now, the question arises, what is a functional spiracle? Functional spiracle means a spiracle which is perfect to take the oxygen and the carbon dioxide go back to the atmosphere. Now, different types of respiratory systems, they may be polypneustic type, in which at least 8 functional spiracles should be present, 8 pairs, and on this basis they are further divided into holopneustic type. It means all the 10 pairs, they should be functional, and this is very common in case of dragonflies, grasshoppers and cockroaches. Second type is peripneustic. Here 9 pair of spiracles are functional. It means 1 pair of spiracle is closed, and that is mesothoracic spiracle is closed, and the example some of the dipterans. Hemipneustic, hemi means something absent. It means 8 pairs of spiracles are function, 2 spiracles becomes non-functional, that is mesothoracic or abdominal spiracles. And the best example is mitocephid larvae, that comes under the order Diptera. Second category of respiratory system is oligopneustic. In this, 1 or 2 pairs of spiracles are functional, which are further divided into amphipneustic, where only mesothoracic and last pair of abdominal spiracles are open. Propneustic, where only mesothoracic spiracles are functional. And the good example is mosquito pupa. Then one separate category of respiratory system is apneustic. It means no functional spiracles are present. It means all the 10 spiracles are closed, and this is very common in case of mayfly larvae or the nymph of Odonata. Now, the question arises, then how respiration takes place in these insects where no functional spiracles are present? It means the general body surface of the insect become respiratory. As such, they don't require any functional spiracles. The third system is nervous system. Now, if we see a schematic diagram of the neuron, because nervous system is composed of specialized cells which are called as neurons, and this diagram shows what are the different parts of the neurons. So, it has a cell body, then axon, and then final branches which are known as terminal buttons or terminal arboreum. Nervous system is composed of special cells called neurons. In insect, the nervous system is divided into three parts, or it is classified into three parts: central nervous system, visceral or sympathetic nervous system, and third is the peripheral nervous system. Now, coming to the central nervous system, this is the main nervous system and composed of a double chain of ganglia which are joined together by means of longitudinal as well as transverse bands or fibers. However, this system, that is the central nervous system, is divided into brain, which is known as supraesophageal ganglia, second is subesophageal ganglia, and third is ventral nerve cord. Now, brain, which is situated in the head, and it is again divided into forebrain, middle brain and hind brain, and which are technically known as protocerebrum, deutocerebrum and tritocerebrum. Similarly, the subesophageal ganglia, it is connected to the brain by small connectives or some strands like structures which functions only to connect the supraesophageal ganglia with the subesophageal ganglia. Ventral nerve cord, the third part of the central nervous system, it is double gangliated chain of different ganglia, and this chain or nerve cord is composed of three pairs of ganglia in the thoracic region and 8 pairs of ganglia in the abdominal region. But all the 8 pairs of the abdominal ganglia cannot be seen in many cases. So, we can say that 5 pairs of abdominal ganglia are prominent. Out of the 5 abdominal ganglia, fifth ganglion or fifth ganglia is the largest because it covers or it controls or coordinates the activity beyond the fifth abdominal segment. So, entire activity beyond fifth segment is governed by the fifth abdominal ganglia, and that is why it is bigger in size. So, after going through the details of the central nervous system, the other part of the nervous system is visceral or sympathetic nervous system, which is mainly concerned with the involuntary actions of the insect body. It means the actions on which the insect does not have any control. They are automatically controlled by this system. The activity which are controlled automatically within the body, on which there is no outside control, that is governed by this visceral or sympathetic nervous system, which is further divided into 3 subsystems. The first is stomodial sympathetic or stomatogastric nervous system, which lies on the dorsal surface of the foregut. It means it is present on the dorsal side of the foregut of the alimentary canal, and it is made up of frontal, hypocerebral and visceral ganglia. Second is ventral sympathetic nervous system. It consists of a pair of transverse nerves that are connected with each ganglia of the ventral nerve cord. Caudal sympathetic nervous system. In addition to this, some nerves arise from posterior compound ganglia of the ventral nerve cord, which supply nerves for the posterior part of the gut, that is the alimentary canal and the reproductive system. It means this caudal sympathetic nervous system is important as far as the reproductive system or the activity of the reproductive system is concerned. Lastly, the peripheral nervous system. All the nerves arising from the ganglia of the central and visceral nervous system constitute the peripheral nervous system. It means this system is made up of the ganglia of central as well as the visceral nervous system. It has two types of sensory neurons. They may be either bipolar neurons or multipolar neurons. Bipolar neurons, they are formed from the hypodermal cells and are connected with the cuticular sensory hairs. It means they are directly attached to the hairs or the CT-like structures. Multipolar neurons, they are present below the integument. It means they are present below the body wall of the insects. So, as such, these bipolar and multipolar neurons, they constitute the peripheral nervous system. Now, let us conclude the three systems which we have just discussed. In case of the circulatory system, we found that this circulation is open type. It means the blood is not flowing in any tube-like structures. We have also seen the different structures or the organs associated with the circulatory system. Similarly, in case of respiratory system, which has been meant for the exchange of gases between the environment and the cells, here we have seen the different structures which are involved in this important system of respiration and different types of respiratory systems present in different insects. Likewise, in case of nervous system, which is meant for controlling and coordinating the different body activities going outside as well as inside of the insect body, that is governed by the three important systems: central nervous system, visceral or sympathetic nervous system and peripheral nervous system.